You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got us a family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining me is Brian Young, the Turtle Dork.
Look both ways. Look both ways!
And also joining us is Lisa Gullickson, wife dork.
You're not just a pain in my head and a pain in my dick, you're a pain in my ass!
Jesus. And also joining us is Brad Gullickson, mouth dork.
Look, it may have been an accident, but you're a murderer.
And you may not believe it, but ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. What's the downside to eating a clock? It's time consuming. And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast.
I love it, I love it, I love it.
What's that from?
Just in case you forget, Darren is a dad.
What's that quote from?
It's from my Week in Dork.
Oh, he doesn't want to reveal.
I thought that was just one from your noodle. I was giving you full credit for that terrible joke.
I was so tempted to take that credit, but then I risk outing myself later on. So I'll be honest. Howdy, dorks. How's everyone doing?
Brad learned how to make GIFs.
I'm making gifts
For
This
everyone.
is a gift
Gifts
making
for everyone.
fool.
So does this mean like you're going to just start bombarding like your Twitter feed and an Instagram feed and Facebook page with gifts?
Gifts. You get a gif. I get a gif. Everyone gets a gif.
I'm going to give you listeners a peek behind the curtain.
Oh.
If you've been appreciating...
Wait, I'm not dressed.
Oh,
Oh, no, that's the
Darren
other
was
curtain, the
behind
other
the
curtain.
Put
No,
that
that's another
mushroom
curtain.
stamp away.
If you've been enjoying the Saturday morning cartoon content on One Perfect Shot, those are all Brad's shots. He's been the curator.
Yeah, and my boss was like, there should be more gifts with this. I'm like, oh, I guess I got to learn how to make gifs.
But honestly, like, now, like, this is just, like, wizardry inside Brad that now that he has it, he's literally going to be unstoppable.
I'm going to make
Does
them regret.
it seem like, is he making it seem like a corruptible power?
I think that he is plotting a Giphy takeover.
Yeah,
So he seems different
Gift cat.
post-
Gift cat.
Gift cat?
learning this-
Gift cat.
Oh,
Oh.
Lord.
Gift cat. I'm a gift cat
Alright.
guy.
Well, I guess I kind of know how Brad's weekend dork was. He's making gifts.
It's going great.
What about Brian? What did you learn how to make?
I was trying to come up with a joke, but I'm not
Excuses?
that. Probably. Oh, but I'm not that quick with it. Wait, what was the question?
How was your weekend,
What did you do
Brian?
this week, motherfucker?
Weekend dork. What did I do, man? I didn't do much of anything, man. Like I was just talking to you guys off air. I was like, yeah, my weekend dork might be pretty quick. So, but yeah, man. I guess what I did watch was really just a lot of rewatches outside of what we're going to talk about for our review cast. The King of Staten Island, Judd Apatow's, magnum opus.
I thought you watched the movie.
I did. That was kind of a joke.
Oh. Like the movie, not funny. All right, what was you saying? Sorry, listening.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was meant to be funny.
No.
That's my hot take.
No.
I just wished it was.
Maybe.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Brian. I'm sorry. Go.
But I guess this week, well, I'll tell you this. What I did watch was a rewatch of something that I haven't seen in probably 30 years. Coming off of our last weekend dork, when we talked about Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, there was a tweet, or I think I saw it on Instagram, that actually, yeah, Scott Mantz actually put it up on Instagram, and he said that, hey guys, like, Do the Right Thing is free on Amazon Prime, but it's free, I guess for I don't know for how long. And I was like, you know what, I have not seen that movie since it came out. Came out in '89, so the movie came out what 31 years ago? Yeah, 31 years ago.
Yep.
And I probably haven't seen it since its release, or in probably the early '90s. So I vaguely remember that movie. Yeah, it's weird. Like, not just specifically with Spike Lee, but just a lot of films. Like, sometimes I just don't go back and rewatch them. So, I mean, there's certain movies I'll go back and rewatch, like periodically, like either every year, or every few years I'll go back and rewatch a movie. But certain movies, like, I'll watch and then like something like Schindler's List. I probably haven't seen that since the '90s. So yeah, there's certain movies that I've seen, but then, like, you know, that my memory of those movies are become a little hazy, and so I kind of want to go back and just kind of reintroduce myself to a lot of those films. And since it was free, I ended up renting it on Amazon and rewatching Do the Right Thing, and it's crazy how prescient that movie is to what we're going through now. And I kind of talked about it a little bit last week with Spike Lee, and it just feels like just us, like, where we are in our world, and just us as a society. It just feels like we're starting to catch up to what Spike Lee has already been preaching for for basically his whole career. And I mean, you see it in Do the Right Thing. Where they even bring up issues of, like, climate change. They even talk about that in the movie as well. Give me 1 second. I actually want to pull something up on IMDb about the film. But yeah, it was really, really interesting just to see what he was able to actually do with him, not only writing and directing and producing that movie, but also being able to star in that movie. And this wasn't like his first film. Nope. But for this movie to be early in his career, and for him to be wearing, like, all of those different hats, and to pull off something that is that profound in almost every single way, and to make so many iconic characters in that movie, I mean, it's a testament to him, just his talents as a filmmaker. And just really having this ear to the ground as far as, like, what's going on socially and economically, especially during that time in New York and Bed-Stuy. But yeah, I mean, the cast of characters is just great. I mean, Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee as the mayor and mother sister, and of course, you know, Spike Lee as Mookie, and then John Turturro. I just thought, like, that whole relationship between Mookie and Pino, I thought was really, really good. Robin Harris, it just showed me how much I missed Robin Harris. I always remember him from House Party, and, you know, him as Sweet Dick Willie, and him sitting on the corner with the other two guys. And I was every time he came up on screen, I was just like, man, I miss Robin Harris. So good. He was just so good. And of course, a young Martin Lawrence is in there.
Little bony Martin, little bony knock-kneed Martin Lawrence.
Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito. And everybody, man. And yeah, it's just, I mean, and of course, Bill Nunn, who played Radio Raheem, who I believe he just recently passed away.
Damn, for real?
He did, yeah.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken.
The Dutta Man.
Yeah, Radio Raheem was amazing, but it's crazy how you take this corner or this neighborhood in Bed-Stuy, and it almost kind of encapsulates America, and just, like, dealing with not just the racial tensions, but just everything else as far as, like, you know, the police and racial biases. Just everything that he's speaking in that movie, and we talked about this last week with Spike Lee, where he throws a lot of stuff in this movie, in his films. But man, this movie, man, it just, I guess it just hit me in a different way, watching this and living in the time that we are now in 2020, and how relevant that movie felt, even though it came out 31 years ago. And I mean, we talked about this before. It's like, this isn't anything new. This isn't like this just started. You know, like within like the last 5 or 10 years. This has been going on for decades, for centuries, and this is just something that Spike Lee was just speaking on. But watching that movie today just hits in a completely different way, especially.
You know why I think it hits in a different way, B? And pardon me for speaking for you, because but I'm really speaking for me too. But I agree with you. It hits in a different way. I think for me, and maybe for you too, I'm gonna assume for you too, it hits in a different way. Is because what it's speaking about today, and I'm doing air quotes today, is something we're paying attention to right now. Yeah. Whereas when we were younger, when this movie first came out, I know me personally, I wasn't tuned in to what Spike Lee was saying, what was going on, because at that age, I'm stuck in my little microcosm of a world of high school life and shit like that. So I wasn't woke in that same way. Ironically though, I was still a victim to the things that were going on back then and still going on now.
Oh, absolutely.
But I wasn't even privy to it in a way where I felt like, okay, it's not just me, it's not just this neighborhood, and also I need to be cognitive of it, and so that I can be prepared for it and also do something about it. And so back then I wasn't in that mind state. So when I saw Do the Right Thing, me first and foremost, I'm thinking, oh man, visually, look at what Spike Lee's doing on such a technical level. Look at the Dudda Man. I mean, look at Radio Raheem and the rings, and oh, look at Martin, he's funny. Oh man, bugging out, got the Nike Air Jordans. My head's in a totally different place looking at that movie. Oh man, Robin Harris, he remind me of my Uncle Mel. Now, as an adult, as a more mature, as a father, you know, as someone who realizes that I have agency in the world and I have stake in what goes on outside of my bubble, now I see it, and to me, it's like, shit, it's still happening. Like, the shit's still happening, and I've been not paying attention to it for this long, and it took all these years for me to grow and mature and to realize that it's still happening. So for me, when I look at that, the shocking thing is the sadness of the fact that it's still happening. Like, that movie should not be relevant right now. It shouldn't have never been relevant. It should never had to be made. But it really shouldn't be relevant right now. It should be a time capsule. And damn, remember when shit was like that? Yeah, yesterday, motherfucker. So that's the fucked up part looking at those older films. You know, is the fact that we haven't gone. It's gotten worse.
Yeah, I know. It just feels like there hasn't been any type of progression from listening to the voices that have been crying out about the injustices that have been happening in these neighborhoods and across the country for decades, and it just feels like it's all just kind of falling on deaf ears. It's like people like Spike Lee and other filmmakers, John Singleton, and now Ryan Coogler and everybody else, Jordan Peele, they're still beating that drum. But it's like, you have people listening, but you also need people to kind of be active and wanting to start to kind of make those changes as well. But I commend Spike Lee for doing it. I mean, and you're right, D, because like this movie came out in '89. Like me being 11 years old and seeing this, because I remember like my mother would take me to the movies, because I remember the first Spike Lee movie I remember seeing was School Days, and I saw that in the theater. I remember seeing.
Damn, with your mama?
Yeah. My mother and my brother. I think it was at Rivertown actually.
Did she put her hand over your eyes? Did she do the thing when she reach over and cover your eyes?
She did that for White Man Can't Jump.
She would need that.
So did my dad.
Yeah, the Woody Harrelson and Rosie Perez sex scene that White Man Can't Jump.
I know the scene. I know the scene.
But and again, School Days is one that I want to go back and rewatch, because that one I can't remember. I do remember seeing that in theaters, and I remember that being a packed house going to see School Days. I think that was either 86 or 87, so I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. Yeah. But and that movie kind of deals with like, the whole thing within the black community of light skin, dark skin. But do the right thing, man. It just, I don't know, watching it now just hitting a completely different way, and seeing the end of that movie with Radio Raheem and what ultimately happens to him, in light of what has happened in this country in the last month, it's just like, fuck, man. Spike Lee has been ahead of the curve the whole time, man. He's been ahead of the curve.
And it's interesting when you watch Do the Right Thing, 1989, and you also watch Batman 1989. I've been watching a lot of 30th anniversary movies.
Yeah.
And Do the Right Thing, beyond its timeliness and social conscience, it feels like a film that could have been shot today.
Yeah.
It does not look dated in any way. And while I love something like Batman, I mean, I adore Tim Burton's Batman in a lot of ways, it feels absolutely rooted to 1989. And Do the Right Thing does not.
Yeah. And I love his filmmaking. I love the color palettes and just the way he shoots everything, and how he uses these low Dutch angles, and how the way he moves the camera really aggressively when you get to certain scenes to really try to just the way he uses film language to just kind of give you that more aggressive nature of the point that he's trying to make in that movie. I just think it's just great filmmaking. And I do remember that there was a lot of talk about that movie being that it should have won Best Picture, and I believe it was Driving Miss Daisy was the movie that won that year.
Yeah, and I don't even think Do the Right Thing was nominated.
It was nominated for Best Original Screenplay and Supporting Actor.
Okay.
For Aiello.
Yeah, but not Best Picture.
Okay, yeah. Because I know a lot of people talk about that recently so I couldn't remember if it was nominated for Best Picture or not, but because they kept saying Driving Miss Daisy won, and you pick a movie like that over something like Do the Right Thing. But
I've also recently rewatched Driving Miss Daisy for the first time.
Why?
Because 1989, watching 30th anniversary. That movie's not good.
Nobody's fucking talking about Driving Miss Daisy.
Only in the fact that it won Best Picture, and it's a crime.
I know.
Do the Right Thing is continuously popping up on Best Film of All Time lists. So do Oscars really mean anything? Clearly not.
No, they never.
No, you're right. You're right about that. Yeah. And so I'm glad I revisited it, so I have kind of a fresh memory of that movie in my head. I don't know. I'm kind of on this whole Spike Lee train. I want to go back and rewatch School Days, because that's one I've really been wanting to go back and rewatch a lot, with School Days. So yeah, I'll say that's my weekend dork, man. So if you guys, anybody that's listening, I believe it may still be free on Amazon. So, if you haven't seen Do the Right Thing, or if it's been a while since you've seen it, definitely give it a watch. It should be free to rent, and I think it's definitely one of Spike Lee's best movies that he's ever done.
I got to see it at the Alamo Ashburn as part of their film club.
Oh,
so the first time I watched it was on the big screen, and it was awesome. Just tonally, I'm a words person.
Yeah.
His storytelling is just so brilliant. The way he plays with tone, and
which we'll talk about with today's movie.
Oh, certainly. The way he just puts you in a pressure cooker for that entire film. It's just I was just squirming out of my seat. It was amazing.
That's a good way that you describe it, Lisa, because that's the way I felt. Because the one thing that I remembered about that movie vividly was how hot that movie makes you feel just by watching it. And I think that that describing it like a pressure cooker, because you feel hot watching it, and everything kind of builds to that point where it just starts to kind of boil over when everything happens towards the end of that movie. And I think having that aesthetic of the heat and the sweat and being able to feel that heat watching that movie plays into that while you're watching it.
Yeah, it really puts you in that mind space of tempers are getting short. The toxins are just being fucking sweated out,
Yeah, absolutely. So great film.
All right. What else you got?
That's about it. Like I said,
You did a good job, B. You
yeah,
did a good job.
yeah. I mean, I was hoping I had something to talk about, and
You do, I guess. What fuck Snatch, right? Because that's not worth
Well,
talking about.
oh, no.
Hanging out with your friends watching a dope movie. That's not worth talking about.
Snatch is great, and I'm looking forward to this week's watch along. But I figured somebody else was gonna bring that up.
No,
But
you didn't.
That
Goddamn
was. Look, I'm getting older, man. I got short-term memory. I can't.
Guess what? You also got short-term time to talk. Guess what? Time's up. Lisa, how was your lovely weekend, Dork? That's a rhetorical question because I know at least part of it was amazing because you spent some time with your boy and your husband and the other guy who doesn't care about us.
That's
And we
right.
watched
I
Snatch.
got to watch one of my favorite all-time movies of all time. Snatch is amazing. It was my turn to choose, and I chose Snatch. And Darren was there, and there might have been other people there. It was a long time ago, but it was the best. I love that movie. I sound like I'm being ridiculous, but it's true. I do love that movie.
That was a fun rewatch, guys.
It was a super fun rewatch.
Talk about a movie not really. Well, I will say not aging badly. There are some questionable derogatory terms slanged around once or twice, but
I mean, the whole movie is super 90s. I mean, it does feel very
But like
90s.
in like a cool Pulp Fiction kind of way, but British.
I mean, Pulp Fiction feels very 90s. Like, to me, I think all movies are dated for the most part. And like when I say Batman 89 is rooted in 1989, that is not a diss to Batman 89.
Yeah.
It's just a fact.
Yeah.
And Snatch is a 90s movie. Pulp Fiction is a 90s movie. Like the 90s are defined by Pulp Fiction in a lot of ways.
True.
Really?
That's right. Yeah, that's very true.
But do you know where Snatch like exceeds all other 90s films is in the soundtrack?
Oh
like
my
in
gosh.
all of the like it's there's not that horrible 90s music going throughout it, in my opinion. I also watched another two classic films for the first time.
From the
Dub
90s.
Feach from the 90s, smack in the middle of it, 1995. I watched for the first time Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever and Batman and Robin.
Yeah,
for
I
the
just
first
rewatched
time?
that.
For the first time.
Wow.
Until this week, my Batman went Adam West, Michael Keaton, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck.
And now you got
skipped
two more
Val and
Batmen.
Clooney.
And now I've got two more Batmen. And then
Well-
my order of Batman goes Adam West. Now I'm ranking them. No. I won't rank them. All Batmen are valid. They're all beautiful and different in their own way, except for maybe Val Kilmer. He might be the worst.
Oh,
Oh, damn.
his
Lisa.
lips.
His lips are so full.
You think Val Kilmer's worse than George Clooney?
George Clooney, I don't even think Batman was in that movie. I think George Clooney was in that movie and he was fucking charming.
Yeah.
Fair.
Holy
I went into these movies expecting to be astonished with their terribleness, and I actually found them super charming.
Look
I
at
thought they
you.
were really cute and enjoyable. I think the greatest intro into it is for the CBCC podcast this week. Plug at CBCC podcast on Twitter. We've been reading Batman Family, just the Robin and Batgirl episodes, because that's the couple we're covering on the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast. So I had just read some super fun but very cheesy Batman Family issues. So going from that like 70s wacky, colorful, over-the-top stories right into Joe Schumacher's Batman.
Just
was,
to
like,
give you an idea,
seamless.
the first issue of Batman Family is Robin and Batgirl versus the resurrected Benedict Arnold,
That is 100% true.
and AKA Satan.
Yeah.
Those are the first villains of Batman Family: Benedict Arnold and Satan.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. It's the bicentennial, and so So Satan is clearly trying to crush the American spirit. What are your comic books about?
Yeah, using America's greatest trainer, Benedict Arnold.
Yeah.
Yep. It's wild. It's wacky. But the Joel Schumacher movies, like, you can totally see the DNA of Batman 66 all over it. Not in a gross way. Like in like a in like a playful, cartoonish, fun way. And
Lisa, I just want to co-sign you right there, because I just rewatched this the other day as well. I only watched the Val Kilmer one. I didn't watch Batman and Robin. I watched Batman Forever. And it's funny because what you just said, within the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie, like, I was thinking that, because my idea of going back to rewatch it was, with Joel Schumacher passing, and I was like, all right, well, it's been so long since I've seen these movies. I know they live in infamy. I know the bat nipples and all this other stuff, but it's been so long. Let me see if I can go back with a different eye and find a different appreciation. Plus, check out Joel Schumacher's film in honor of his passing or whatever. So, like, the first 10 minutes, I'm like, all right, put yourself in a different mindset, Darren, so you don't go in taking in the baggage of knowing that everyone thinks this is a bad movie or whatever, the movie's cultural relevance or whatever. So I went in it, and that was the first thing that struck me, and I was like, well, I don't know how I didn't see this years ago before, but this just feels like an extension, like a really, 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 really big budget, like, homage to, like, the 60s series. Like, it just feels like the same goofiness in that series. You just have better practical effects and a higher caliber of actors on screen playing these characters. But to me, it seemed like they were doing, like, the same thing tonally.
It's totally reverential. And it's such a celebration. Like, you can feel the fandom of not just Joel Schumacher but not Val Kilmer, but everybody else seems super into what they're doing. Like, Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. He's being completely over the top. Yeah, he's only one face. Like, both sides are. I mean, he looks like a Two-Face. He's acting like Joker. That's okay. He's being.
Because I was thinking he's channeling, like, oh my God, he's a huge fan of Cesar Romero, and he's like, all right, now this is my opportunity to show him how much I love him and do my thing. And I was thinking the same thing. Like, he looks like Two-Face, but he's acting like Joker.
Yeah, but like, have you seen Tommy Lee Jones act like that in any other movie?
Nope.
Like, the closest that he behaves to Two-Face is maybe his Warden character from Natural Born Killers, but that's a much more sinister and icky performance. No, I agree. I think there's nothing like this Tommy Lee Jones.
And then the relationship that blossoms over the course of the movie of Two-Face and Jim Carrey's Riddler, I find super fun. Like, they are clearly getting along very well and really playing off of each other. And, like, just thinking about, like, how we think of Jim Carrey now, where you go, like, he had his time in the 90s, but he's, like, a serious actor now, and he's a painter, and he's kind of a kook, but we love him for it, and maybe he's kind of like a sage or something. Yeah. But this is him, like, Jim Carrey at the height of who he was at the height of his career. So, like, just the kerosene of fame and permission radiating off of him, like, is infectious. And I always found, this is weird, but I've always found 90s Jim Carrey kind of cute. I found him cute. Especially in Earth Girls Are Easy when he's an alien. Yes, please.
Oh my God, he was a baby in that one.
I know, and he looked like a little surfer, and when I saw him on Channel 63, Comedy Central, while I was living up at Paris House, being a tween, I was like, that guy's dreamy. Who is that, Jim Carrey?
Did you like him in Once Bitten?
Once Bitten was great.
I've never seen Once Bitten.
Oh,
Brad.
man.
Sorry.
You gotta have a date night and show her Once Bitten. It's a romantic comedy when he's a vampire or something.
That sounds. I've seen the Robert Sean Leonard version of that.
He's really young. As a
that
matter of
sounds
fact, I
adorable.
want to say Once Bitten is before Earth Girls Are Easy.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that
really?
may have been his first movie. I think it was
Oh.
around that time. Yeah.
So he's a baby
Yeah.
in that one.
I like his Riddler is just Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey, but
Yeah.
like just the freedom he has in his performance, his I like his dexterity, like he's just so hilarious. I just think he's really funny, especially in
too.
this context where he's just like, yeah, do whatever you want, man. You're the guy.
So looking at his performance this time, Lisa, it's so funny because I was kind of on the same page with you. It was like I'm cognitive of that period of time, like Jim Carrey being who he was in Hollywood that time, and him probably just not even having a script, just being mostly. I would say 90% of what we saw him say or do in that movie was just from Jim Carrey, like him improvising, and in doing that. One of the things I noticed in him having that freedom and ability, obviously he would relish in that, so he would have fun with it, and you can clearly see that. And it's funny you say like everyone it seems game except for Val Kilmer, but just thinking about your criticism of Val Kilmer versus Jim Carrey's 110% and what he's put into that character. Some people I get it, Jim Carrey's brand of humor ain't for them, but just I say all that to say, watching him the other night in Batman Forever, seeing him perform and just seeing the performance, just seeing like the artist, because here's the thing, a lot of people think like, okay, all he's doing is just getting up there acting stupid and flailing around. But to have like a specific comedic timing, to understand beats, to stay within a certain framework for a character, but still to just be able to do whatever and not lose the character in all of the shit, like that takes skill, but also to do it
he has
believingly.
laser focus, and
Right?
over the course of his career, we know that he's a man who contains multitudes. We've
Yep.
seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Oh
We've
my
seen
gosh.
The Truman Show. We've seen him, Man on the Moon. That he got a little weird with that one, but like
Yeah.
that's more power to him. Like we know that he could do whatever he wants on the screen, and
Yeah.
like what makes him so powerful is the fact that he fucking commits.
Yep.
And I find that really, like, just anybody engaging with 100% committal is something I admire.
I think the other thing we need to mention
Is
when
Drew
talking-
Barrymore, and she's
No.
at the bottom of her, like, at like where Jim Carrey is in accomplishment. Like that is the opposite of where Drew Barrymore is, where
Don't
she's
pick on
literally
Drew.
just a shape.
She pulls herself out of this era of Drew Barrymore.
I think she looks super
No,
cute.
I think we need to just acknowledge how much the movie belongs to Joel Schumacher, right?
100%.
Like it is his vision. Yes, he is pulling something from the '60s camp factor. Like he is embracing camp as his tone. But everything else around that is very Schumacherian. And I think when I would talk about these movies in the past, one, it really helps to watch it with Lisa for the first time and her falling in love with it. And you can't help but become intoxicated by Lisa's enthusiasm for Batman Forever. But when you don't watch the films next to the Burton films or the Nolan films or any other idea of Batman that you may have, and you just accept them as their own product, as two films, because really Batman Forever is a reboot of Batman Returns. It's not a sequel to Batman Returns. Like a couple characters, like side characters, Alfred's back, Michael Gough, Commissioner Gordon's back, but those are the only stragglers. Everything else is totally new. Gotham does not look like Burton's Gotham. Batman is not Burton's Batman. This is Schumacher's thing. And if you watch it like that, I think you will enjoy it in a way that you probably haven't in the past. Only last year I rewatched it so I could talk about it with Aaron and Sean on the Missing Frames podcast, and I took a huge steaming pile on top of both Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And in revisiting it under this context, I regret what I said on that podcast, because I've always preached all Batmen are valid, and Schumacher's Batmen is totally valid.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
sorry, go ahead, Liz.
I think it's wonderful how each cinematic introduction, well, with the exception of Justice League, like each interpretation of Batman has the auteur's stamp on it, where it's just like nobody else could have made Burton's Batman films. Nobody else could have made Schumacher's Batman films. Christopher Nolan took it and did something completely different, and they all feel like Batman to me. And I think part of that comes from the fact, like, I have been reading comics my whole life, but I have been reading comics for my whole marriage, which is over 10 years. We just met the 11 year mark. We just had
Get
our
the number right.
11th anniversary. I'm the spouse who forgets our wedding anniversary because I'm the fucking worst. But like, you get used to picking up a character and going, I love how this character is written, and then you put down that book and you pick up another book and you go like, this is not continuity to me, and then you just toss it over your shoulder and go on with your life. So yeah, I talked enough about Batman Forever for my full. I also watched Batman and Robin. Got a little sleepy beepy.
No.
But it was because I was so content.
You fell asleep and you missed the last 15 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't get to see any Batgirl. I'm a little disappointed in myself, but I'm going to watch the end of that film because I'm curious how it turns out. I'm not going to look at the Wikipedia and read the ending. I'm not going to ask you guys, hey, what happened after Bill Burr and the SNL kid hugged? I'm going to actually go back and watch the end of that film. So, okay, so that was my Week of Dork. Thank you for indulging me.
You're welcome. Brad Gullickson.
The Giftman.
What have I been doing?
Besides learning the ways of the dark arts to create the gifts.
Yes.
What else have you conjured from your cauldron of dorkdom?
Well, we're recording this on the 100th birthday of Ray Harryhausen, and I've been celebrating that today. I've been watching Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and Clash of the Titans and Jason and the Argonauts. While those are also dated, they are also eternal. Those movies still rock. Highly, highly, highly recommend them. And it's when you revisit them and you see like the skeleton sequence that climaxes Jason and the Argonauts, one, you forget how terrifying the skeleton screams are that they have inserted into those characters. Because when they go after Jason and they unleash this, like, it's a howl cackle, a cackle howl. It's nightmarish. I'm gonna hear that sound when I close my eyes tonight and try to go to dreamland. But like, you have to also remember when these movies came out, monster movies and science fiction films weren't the norm, like blockbuster cinema was not a thing, and it's, the most popular movies of the day were not the monster movies, were not the superhero movies. And so you got to imagine in 1958, 57, when Seventh Voyage of Sinbad comes out, like, what an event that must have been for dorks like us, to go to the theater and to see a Cyclops go after Sinbad, to see Sinbad fight on a staircase with a skeleton. And like, it must have been like truly epic, because there were a bunch of B movies, a little, like shoddy little shoestring pieces that were stitched together, and you found ways to enjoy them the way that we used to enjoy like the Punisher direct-to-DVD or direct-to-video movie back in the 90s. But then you would get something like truly beautiful like Seventh Voyage of Sinbad, and your mind must have just been blown.
Well, that was the height of that technology.
I mean, that was like the...
that is peak artistry for stop-motion animation at the time,
I think that Ray Harryhausen, the further he got on, like if you go and you look at Clash of the Titans stop-motion animation, like he certainly advanced it. And I think if you look at the Medusa sequence in Clash of the Titans, like that's better than even what he did with the Cyclops sequence, and that's nearly 30 years later. But Clash of the Titans is nowhere near as good as Seven Voyages of Sinbad because Clash of the Titans is boring. Clash of the Titans script and direction outside of all the Harryhausen stuff is a real drag. Whereas Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and Jason the Argonauts, it's just like pure bliss all the way through. And it's not chock-a-block stop motion animated sequences either. Like even the sequences beyond the monster stuff are strong and exciting, and the performers are fantastic. But like, yeah, so I would say like the best Harryhausen film is probably Jason the Argonauts, although I have soft spots for Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and Mysterious Island, which I haven't rewatched, but I've just ordered a Blu-ray from England. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that. But like, I also don't want you to think like these are history lessons. You know, they're not work to get through. Like, you'll be shocked if you've never seen Seventh Voyage, if you've never seen Jason the Argonauts, if you've never seen Mysterious Island or 20 Million Miles to Earth. You'll be shocked at how fun they are by 2020 standards. And there is something about the physicality of a stop motion thing that isn't quite there. Now, there's always a suspension of disbelief, and anytime they're interacting with a human, you go like, okay, well, that's a little, clunky or whatever if you're that type of person. But if you're just looking at a straight-on shot of the Cyclops and he's not interacting with anything, he's just acting to the camera, there's something about the physicality of that feels as real as a person. Yeah. Which I don't get when I watch like Van Helsing or something, the Stephen Sommers movie. So 100 years, happy birthday, Ray Harryhausen. You were a legend then, you're a legend today. I'm probably going to spend the rest of the week watching Harryhausen stuffs. I also did finish...
Brad.
What?
I got to stop you. You know who else is a legend? Because his birthday's on the same day as Ray Harryhausen that we got to shout out?
Oh, Billy Dash, the indie dork?
I'm a terrible friend.
1, 2, 3.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Billy.
You haven't done anything of quality like Ray Harryhausen, but we still love you.
Happy birthday to you. Guys stopped. I don't want to do it by myself.
I'm going.
They're really super cute. To you. And his podcast is a fucking gem.
Yeah.
On the crown that is in the Mouth of Darkness Industries.
Bill and Claire's Excellent Adventures.
Hell yeah. If you're not on that train, toot toot, it's gonna leave without you.
All right. So shout out to that guy.
Yeah, isn't it just like Billy to invade my weekend dork?
Yeah.
And then I mentioned this last week, but I finally finished Tom Scioli's graphic biography of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. How was that? And it's so good. It's so good.
Jack Kirby has been like the second man in my marriage.
Yeah, that's true.
It's all Brad can talk about.
It's true.
I try not to be jealous.
It's true. You look at the graphic novel and you go like, this would be such a great movie. You have the story of Jack Kirby growing up in New York, rough and tumble neighborhoods, getting into fights with everybody. He starts drawing. He works his way into like Will Eisner's studio, but then frickin' World War II happens, and he gets pulled over to the Western Theater. Has some crazy experiences overseas. Sees combat. It's totally nightmarish, as you can imagine. And then he comes back. The kid who was like the annoying prankster at Timely Comics is now running the show as Stan Lee. And now he has to answer to Stan Lee. That's infuriating to him. But they go on and they create the Marvel Comics universe. They bring out X-Men together, Fantastic Four, the Incredible Hulk, countless others. They have a falling out because Stanley gets all the credit and all the money, and Jack Kirby gets none of the credit and none of the money. So he ditches them, goes to DC. He's hoping he's going to get the royalties he did not see in Marvel there, and he creates the fourth world, the New Gods, Dark Side, Mr. Miracle. They refuse to give him the credit. He gets frustrated. He leaves DC Comics, goes back to Marvel, reinvents Captain America once again, who was totally his character along with Joe Simon, and it goes all the way through the 70s and shows like what an impact he had in every stage of his life upon the industry, and his body eventually ages, and he grows out of his ability to do these drawings, and he passes away in the 90s. He starts to get a little respect from the Image Comics guys, and he's starting to get a little bit more popularity, getting awards at Comic-Con. He has a little bit of a status before he passes away, but he never gets to see the height of what was coming, what we now know as the MCU, and seeing all these characters. And we're going to get the Eternals next year, which is the first Marvel movie that's going to have a sole Jack Kirby credit. We get Ava DuVernay's New Gods movie, which again is a sole credit to Jack Kirby, nobody else involved. So those are huge deals. And I feel like now that Stan Lee has died, and I love Stan Lee as much as the next person, but I feel like now that Stan Lee has died, more and more people will get to understand truly how much of an impact, how much the things that you love, how much the characters you love, the majority of their creation comes from Jack Kirby and not Stan Lee. And I think people are going to learn a lot in the next few years as Eternals comes out and New Gods, and they'll reevaluate his stamp on characters like the X-Men and Fantastic Four and the Avengers.
So when you make this film, are you going to have him have the big kawaii eyes, and do it big eyes?
The way that Tom Scioli does?
Yeah.
I would probably want a live action film than an animated film, and I certainly don't want to go Alita Battle Angel with Jack Kirby. But I'm not opposed to that either. There's a moment in the graphic biography where they address how Scioli draws his eyes, because he draws them in a very young, childlike, big-eyed expression, and then towards the end of the book, they comment on that.
Oh, weird.
And when it happens, it's like I started crying.
Oh.
Like it punched me right in the gut. It's so effective.
I can't wait to read this book.
Yeah, and I would love to spoil it right now, but I want Lee to have that
fucking
impact.
dare.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus. Brad, so this is a movie. Who is your Kirby? Who's playing your Jack Kirby?
Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that.
You should have
Val
been ready,
Kilmer.
baby.
No. You know what? Contemporary Val Kilmer's not that bad of an idea. You shove a stogie in his mouth.
Yeah.
You gray up his temples a little bit. It's not bad. That's not bad.
Seth Rogen.
No.
Wow.
You need some you would probably cast 3 people. You would cast somebody as Child Kirby, somebody as World War II Kirby, and then somebody as 60s through 70s Kirby.
And they're all Tilda Swinton.
She could do it. She could do it.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin, Thanos himself,
right,
would be kind of a good Kirby, maybe.
Yeah. I dig that.
I need to think on that a little bit more.
All right, get back to me.
His birthday is August 28th.
Yeah. 10 days after mine.
Yeah, because my mom's is the 8th, and then you're the 18th, and now Jack.
Yeah, he finishes out the Trinity.
Yep,
He's
that's
there.
right.
The 9th.
That's every time.
Darren's in there too, though.
And my dad's the 24th.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
There
shit.
you go.
August is a big month.
Yeah, if you're not born in August, you're an asshole.
Aw.
God damn it.
Me and Jesus were born in December, so watch your mouth.
I stick by my statement. And so, yeah, that's pretty much what we can dork. The book comes out on July 14th. It's a really nice hardcover. The card stock and the coloring is top notch. You would be foolish not to buy your own copy.
All right. And no,
Is he
see, Brad
Jewish?
doesn't
Is
think
that a
you're an
weird
asshole.
question?
Yeah, he's Jacob Kurtzberg is his name, and so is Stan Lee. Is Stanley Lieber.
I'm like, who are the hip Jewish actors right now?
I mean, Seth Rogen is
Seth Rogen.
Is a good one.
Yay!
Yeah.
I feel like we didn't
was my
acknowledge
Seth
the great
Rogen.
laugh that Darren did. He's amazing. You should hear his Skype. Darren's Skype is like, whoa. That sounds dirty. I mean, like
I'll
he could
do it.
sing the song. Yes, please.
I can't do it right now because I'm smiling, but Lisa put me on the spot. But I will do it randomly out of nowhere in a few minutes once I forget about it. All right, for my weekend dork, there's a movie called Eurovision and the Saga of Fire, the Story of Fire saga. Okay, that's the new Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams movie that's on Netflix right now. They're a Netflix original. Brian, did you watch it? You said, oh, man.
Nah, I don't know if I could do it, man. I don't know if I can do it.
All right, here's my pitch. Not even my pitch. So you've seen the trailer, right? So basically, that's the movie. It's directed by the same guy who did Wedding Crashers, which both of them were in. I will say this: it's a silly movie. It's a silly Will Ferrell movie, but at the heart of it, surprisingly, like the relationship between Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams' character. At first, like, I wasn't. It took a minute. I would say it took a good 20-30 minutes for me to just buy into that relationship. Like, I 30 minutes into the movie, I'm going, oh shit! Like, I've ended up believing and falling for these two. Like, they're cool. So anyway, it's about, like, you know, Will Ferrell's this loser who has this dream of performing on this thing. Apparently there's this real life thing called Eurovision. It's this talent show type thing, like America's Got Talent or whatever, like American Idol, I guess, where you go on and you perform and you compete. And then, you know, it's really big in Iceland because they're from Iceland. They're this Icelandic group who they do Eurovision competitions. So anyway, it's his international competition, and his dream is always to do that. And Rachel McAdams is his childhood friend since they were like 5 and 6 years old, who's always, you know, she's into the same things they're like two peas in a pod. They're like Forrest and Jenny. They grow up. His eye is always on the Eurovision thing. Her eye has been on singing because she's a beautiful singer and she loves to sing, but also she loves him. And it's one of those, the love of your life has been in front of you this whole time type thing. So that plays out like how you expect it. But they sell like their relationship so well. Like by the end of it, at first it seems silly. He seems like he's doing his man-child thing, but she's doing like a female version of it, sort of. Like they're like two. When I say like they're two peas in a pod, like they're just alike in a way, except she has a little bit more sense than Will Ferrell. But they're both kind of, I don't want to say aloof, but they both have like this childlike naivete. They haven't lost the dream. They haven't lost the ability to dream. So kind of in context to the people around them who are telling them you can't do it, you're gonna fail. Like they seem like children because they don't. He doesn't have the fear of failure, right? So in a way, like they seem childlike like that. They don't see them not doing this thing. And so through the course of the movie, you know, things happen. Dan Stevens is in it. He might be worth watching.
Does he sing?
He does. He's a Russian competitor. He's a competitor from Russia, and he has a song called Lion of Love, Lisa, that you need to watch this movie for Dan Stevens' character alone. But his singing and his shirt,
he has a great voice.
He has his little ground beef on display when he opens his shirt, and he looks sexy. But his character is hilarious. He's hilarious. But by the end of the movie, I found myself going, holy shit. Like the third act comes and it follows like the whole, like, you know how it's going to go. But because it's them and you dig them and they're just so lovable, you're not thinking about the literal structure of the film. You're just wrapped up in the sentimentality of it. And I don't know, I found myself like, I felt like you, Brian. I saw the trailer for it. I didn't even watch the trailer for it. I saw the trailer for it right before I watched the movie. Like I saw pictures of it and I was like, oh man, I love Will Ferrell, but I don't know if this is going to be my bag. But I was desperate for something to watch. I said, let's check the trailer out and see if I'm going to like it. I watched the trailer and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But I watched it anyway and I ended up enjoying it more than I thought. So again, if you love Dan Stevens, that's my pitch. If you love Dan Stevens,
and who
watch
doesn't?
this movie because he's amazing in it. And Rachel McAdams, she has great comedic timing. Her and Will Ferrell, like they work well together, surprisingly.
And bearded Pierce Brosnan
is great. He plays Will Ferrell's dad. He's great in the film as well. Everyone in the cast is good. Will Ferrell does get like one or two scenes where he goes a little over, but even him, like for the most part, he isn't going like over the top. The silliness of it is just, you know, the sight of him in some of these costumes and stuff like that. But it's very earnest. It's very, it's very charming, and it's a feel good movie. And so
I'm flipping through the images on IMDb, and they're wild.
Right?
Yeah.
All that stuff happens. But yeah. There's only one V scene, Lisa. They end up succeeding in something. I'm not going to say what. They end up succeeding in something, and they're out to celebrate. And there's a scene where they go to a cafe outside. There's another scene where they go to a nightclub. When they go to the nightclub, turn away, go in the other room for about 30 seconds. It's real quick, but still give yourself 30 seconds. And then after that, the coast is clear.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll keep that in mind.
But yeah, so I recommend that. I guess I recommend that. I saw that, and I also saw Snatch. I watched Snatch with my best buds in the whole world, and that was a great rewatch. And outside of that, I've been playing The Last of Us 2 that just recently got released, and I kind of want to talk about this because I typically don't really get into video games too much on the podcast. Only here and there I'll do it. But when I was playing this game, it became apparent that I have to, I was going to talk about it on the podcast because it is such a cinematic piece of work. So, and The Last of Us is actually in the process of being turned into a series for HBO. And the creator or director of Chernobyl, that particular series, is heading The Last of Us. So the pedigree behind the production of it is really high, and it bodes well for the final product because the story of The Last of Us this is part 2, but the story in general is in the first game there was an apocalyptic event that at the very least it's spread across America. I'm not sure like if it's on worldwide, but in the very least it's America. You can almost assume it's worldwide. But so it came from nature. There was this fungus, and it's based on a real fungus. That fungus that grows on the brain of an ant, and then it controls the ant and turns the ant into a zombie, and then it just grows out of its head and it sprouts. So basically, it's that a mutated version of that spread via spores, and it just so basically America looks like The Walking Dead, and instead of like zombies, you got the quote unquote infected, and they have these fungal things growing on their deformations of their face with these huge fungus, like really huge heads and stuff like that. And so anyway, those are like the threat video game play wise that you have to contend with amongst like the people who once civilization went to shit, they just became the monsters too. So you deal with that. But the heart of the story is this guy who, in the opening of the first game, he loses his young daughter just as everything is hitting the fan, and everybody's trying to get directed to safe areas by the military and all this. Daughter gets killed. Time passes. The infection spreads. Now everything, the plant life is overgrown. All the cities, everything is just desolate. And he is tasked with escorting a young girl from one side of the country to Seattle because she may be immune to the virus, and it is the potential for the cure rests in her. So the game is him escorting this girl from the East Coast to the West Coast, and over that period of time, opening up and going to care for someone again since the loss of his daughter, and then seeing his daughter and her, and then the relationship that grows between them. And so at the end of the game, I'm going to spoil the first game. So if you haven't played it, listeners, turn off because I'm going to spoil it the next 30 seconds just to get to the second part of the game. Anyway, at the very end of the game, there's this emotional gut punch of an ending because he takes her to these people who throughout the entire game, you've been hearing that these people are going to try to get this cure from her and blah 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 blah. They take her there, and he finds out something with her, and basically, in order for the cure, she does have it. She does possess the ability to cultivate the cure, but in order for them to do it and save the planet, she has to die. The procedure is going to kill her. So, because he's grown to care for her throughout this journey, he doesn't let them do it. He shoots the place up and he takes her and he leaves. And that's the end of the game. And like,
oh, wow.
she wakes up and she's like, what happened? And he was like, it was bullshit, so it's just me and you. I got you. Let's go. So you open the second game. 5 years have passed. Ellie has grown up a little bit more now. Now she's like a young adult, and Joel still hasn't told her about what happened. He told her that it was bullshit, and so she's been living these last 5 years thinking that we went that way for nothing, but we found sanctuary at this new place. So now she's starting her own life, and so the game picks up there. And one of the many cool things about the game, outside of it being so cinematic, so now really she's the lead in this game. In the first game, you really played Joel escorting her and protecting her. Now she's the lead. She's in her maybe early 20s, and as a young woman, the game tackles her exploring her adulthood, her womanhood, her feelings, her sexuality. There's LGBTQ. Did I say it right?
Yeah,
There's
I think as long as you get a couple of them in there. There's representation in that because she's exploring that. She's discovering that that's her identity in that, and that is the relationship with her and her girlfriend is very strong. And I say that to say, just to get to the point, the reason why I wanted to talk about it and the reason why I say this game is so cinematic, outside of the story and the way that it's presented, the graphics are amazing, and everything looks so realistic, the lighting, and it actually looks like there was cinematography done to get the look of the game. It doesn't look like you just have a video camera, like a news camera, and you're just shooting what you see and it looks like how it looks. It doesn't look like that. It looks stylized to the point where there looks like there's film grain. It looks like there may have been some filters used. So it looks very cinematic in that way outside of the story. But the performances of the characters are what sell it. And it gets to the point where you start to forget that you're playing a game, especially when you go to the cutscenes when something significant happens. It feels like you're watching a movie, and even the uncanny valley thing with the eyes, they're starting to get further and further away from that because you don't even see it as much in this game. The lead character Ellie, the girl, she's voiced by Ashley Johnson. You remember in Avengers at the very end in the third act when they're in New York, and Captain America saves those people in the diner. And that one girl, that waiter girl who's looking out the window, that's Ashley Johnson. She voices Ellie. She does a lot of voice work in film and video games and animation. She's also she does some live action stuff too, but she does a lot of work in voice acting. And Joel, the male protagonist from the first game, he's voiced by Troy Baker. Troy Baker voices Batman in Ninja Turtles versus Batman. Brian.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
he voices like characters from Metal Gear. He's a huge video game voice actor. But anyway, like the direction that they're given and the performances that they give, it feels like you're watching an actor. Like I'm talking about like Michael Shannon caliber of dramatic acting and stuff like that. So when these character moments happen, they're stunning. It's like a gut punch. Like there's something happens like at the end of the first act, the beginning of the second act, that it just shifts everything. And I knew that it was going to happen I can tell just by the way things were playing out. I had a feeling, but even still, like when it happened, like I was astounded. And it was just based on the fact that how they staged it, how they shot it. It was that scene taking place was shot like a movie, and it was constructed and shot like how David Fincher or somebody would have done it. Like it was really meticulously blocked and everything, and so it was so effective. And also because of what happened to the characters that it happened to, and the fact that the video game establishes them as such multi-dimensional characters that when something happens to them, like, you feel it. And so, you know, it's I was thinking, you know, how far video games have come, and I recently talked about it when I mentioned just like Red Dead Redemption and the graphics and things like that. But like storytelling wise, narratively, I don't know. That's one thing. Like I don't know that people talk about a lot or give video games that genre or that segment enough credit for. Or I don't even know if people are aware that the evolution of video games now. Yes, you do have games where it's just fighting games, as Mortal Kombat. You do have some Twitch and Reflex games where, like, you know, Temple Run and shit like that. And then you got your Call of Duty games. But there's a segment of video games that has dedicated itself to put storytelling at the forefront of gameplay and game design, and then try to come up with game design that evolves around the storytelling and is necessitated by the storytelling and what you're trying to say. This game, for example, it's not really concerned so much with like the action and the combat as it is with, let me make you learn and know these characters and feel these characters and understand these characters, so that when we do eventually get to that point in the game where something happens, the risk of something happening, or you controlling that character, it adds more tension and weight because you care about whether or not something happens to this character, versus just a faceless ninja, you know, getting his head uppercutted off in Mortal Kombat. You know, so it's a different approach to storytelling. And being someone who watches a lot of movies, like the parallel is immediately apparent. It's immediately apparent when you're sitting here watching and listening to a game, and you're not complaining that, okay, like nothing's blowing up, like when's the shooting gonna start, because you're enthralled in the character work and stuff. And the fact that they're hiring writers, they're hiring Hollywood screenwriters, they're hiring like Hollywood caliber actors to perform, you know, the huge video game that just came out the end of last year called Death Stranding, that starred Norman Reedus, Guillermo del Toro's in it, Nicholas Winding Refn is in it. So, and it's because of the director of that video game being such a name that he's known in Hollywood amongst the elite directors, that they want to work with him in any capacity because his penchant for storytelling in video games.
So, sorry if this is like an ignorant question, but like,
No.
When you're playing these video games, like, what percentage is you watching a film kind of thing, and what percentage are you actually playing the circumstances?
It depends on the game. It depends on the game. Again, they've gotten so sophisticated and creative with the storytelling now, where they do take into consideration the storytelling when trying to decide what are our gameplay mechanics going to be, and how much is it going to be interactive versus non-interactive, you watching something. And so
what about this game in particular? Like, how much?
This, I would say it's like maybe, and I've not played as much of this game as the first game. I've actually completed the first game. I've only like played like the first act of this game, if we're thinking about it as a 3-act movie. So I haven't gotten through. But of what I've played, I would say it's maybe 80-20 or 10-90. 10% watching stuff, 20% watching stuff, 80%, 90% physical, you know, actually interacting with the gameplay. But a lot of the times too, though, and not only this game, even when you're actually playing, you're still getting story. Like, it's the action isn't just, okay, this is just the part where we just get your kicks off of shooting something. No, you're having to shoot something because the group has found a way to either feed the community or do something, and in order to do that, they have to do this one thing, but the infected are coming, right? So, and then while that happens, you lose a character that was, you know, with your whole group the entire time, that you've come to know something. So even when you're playing the game, story is happening. It's not like the story pauses, you play, you sneak past the zombie, you kill him or whatever, and then the story continues. Like, the characters are conversing with one another as they're traversing. So say like they have to sneak through a building, and they're infected just walking around, and the infected can't see, they go by sound. So to add tension, you're in multiple scenarios where you're just walking past one. He's literally right there, but you're creeping so he doesn't hear you, and you make it past. There's scenarios like that. But then when you're going through that building and you have a hallway where there are no infected, the characters might talk, and they might talk about something that happened last night that they haven't shown yet, but they're referencing stuff that happened that's playing into who they are, why the one person's upset. So even when you're playing the game, exposition and character building is happening. And
my favorite computer games when I was a kid were always like the story ones, where I loved King's Quest, I loved Myst, and I always hated the game that like depended on like your quick twitch muscles, because I was always, because we didn't have video games growing up, so I was always the shittiest at them. Like, Brad, what was that game you were playing where it was like a noir?
L.A. Noire.
Oh, there you go. Brad was playing L.A. Noire, and he made it look so fun because you're like solving crimes and stuff and going around and looking at clues and asking questions. But then so I was like, I'm going to play L.A. Noire on my own. So I sat down and I held the thing. And the thing is, to get everywhere, you have to fucking drive. And I can hardly drive in real life. And now I'm just tearing through the streets of L.A., hitting shit, disappointing people. I'm just like, man, I could just go outside and disappoint people like I do every day with my terrible driving.
Well, they still do. Games like Myst have evolved to 2020 standards.
Oh yeah, where even like slow people like myself.
They're accessible and they're narrative driven. There are a ton of games that are narratively driven where it's the exact opposite. It's the antithesis to Twitch gaming. And I don't know, like later on, like offline, I'm gonna see if I can find some things to recommend, because you and Brad have a PlayStation, right?
Yeah, we do, and we only use it for watching movies, pretty much. What was the last? Like, we had that Spider-Man game.
I played it like 3 months ago.
Yeah.
God damn it. All right, well, I'm gonna have to start introducing you to some cinematic games and story-driven games.
Yeah, I would love a story game with like puzzles. I'm such a nerd. I like a puzzle.
There are tons.
I want to read a thing, and then,
figure it out.
Yeah, and figure it out. That's what I want to do.
I have a ton of suggestions. I'll talk to you offline about that.
Sounds good.
But yeah, that was my week in Dork. Outside of that, I spent 2 hours, if maybe it was 3, probably 4 hours watching The King of Staten Island, which we're going to talk about. It's going to be our review cast.
That was the longest movie I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah.
And I
didn't
the intermission
finish break
it.
In the middle too with the overture.
No.
Yeah, when we come back from the break, if you haven't watched it, it's available for rent. You're gonna have to pay $19.99, and you can rent that. You can watch that movie and then come back and listen to our review cast. Or if you want to save $19.99, listen to the review cast first and then decide at the end of the day. It's up to you. But yeah, full spoilers when we get back to do our good, the bad, the ugly about Judd Apatow's latest, starring Pete Davidson, King of Staten Island. We'll be back right after the break.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. This week, our review cast is for The King of Staten Island, the semi-autobiographical story of Pete Davidson's life, right? It's semi-autobiographical or all the way autobiographical?
I just happened to look at I was on Pete Davidson's IMDb page doing my deep research for this. And he went to Catholic school. That seems completely right.
Oh. Right.
Yes. So, let's see. He was raised on Staten Island, New York, and is the son of Amy Waters and Scott Matthew Davidson. Pete's father, a firefighter, died during the 9/11 attacks.
They showed him a picture of him.
Yeah.
Yes. So at the end, when it says at the end, it goes
I
to
didn't
credits,
watch
and
to
then
the end.
it says in memory of, and they show a picture of him holding. I guess that was a young Pete.
Yeah. It was.
Aw.
Holy crap! Huh? All right.
So, yes, he attended St. Joseph Catholic High School.
Mm-hmm.
He appeared on shows Wild and Out, Jimmy Kimmel Live, Guy Code, and film School Dance in 2014. There you go. I read that.
Wikipedia.
Yeah. This is a free
Wikipedia.
podcast. I'm allowed to just read IMDb to you if I want. What are you going to do? Ask for your money back? Go
Oh my
fuck
God.
yourself.
Wow, Brian. Starting with the good of the King of Staten Island, and please save some good for everyone else at the table. Thank you. You may proceed.
Yeah. No, The King of Staten Island. I mean, this is a movie I was kind of looking forward to. I enjoyed the trailer when it came out a couple of months ago, and I thought it would be, kind of an intriguing film. I don't know much about Pete Davidson as a comedian or a performer. I know he's been on, I don't know if he's still on SNL or not, but I don't know too much about him. But when I saw the trailer, I just thought it was interesting. I always think it's kind of cool when somebody is able to kind of tell whether it's a semi-autobiographical tale of their life, or to kind of put that stuff on screen, whether he's doing it therapeutically to exercise some demons, or just whatever the case is. And I always find something like that to be intriguing, that somebody makes themselves vulnerable to tell their own story as far as what they've gone through, and kind of knowing a little bit about his story as far as like his real life father dying in 9/11. It seems like, okay, yeah, this could possibly be something that could work. And Judd Apatow, he's kind of delved in this arena a little bit before, kind of dealing with like these kind of schlubby guys that's caught in this state of arrested development and can't really the kind of man children. We talked about Will Ferrell a little bit, and he's done it, I think, to probably better effect than he has in this movie. And I think that really just comes down to the character of Pete Davidson. I think when you watch movies like whether it's Knocked Up or 40-Year-Old Virgin, you kind of those guys like Seth Rogen, although they are kind of like man children, there's something kind of charming about them.
Well, and like tonally, it's a different thing. Like, I don't think that King of Staten Island is going for the tone of 40-Year-Old Virgin, or Knocked Up.
No, not at all, not at all. And this feels like it's Judd Apatow that's doing something a little bit more dramatic. I mean, I guess you could say maybe later in his career, he's kind of, straddled that tone a little bit of drama, like dramedies, the comedy and the drama. But I mean, you look at something like maybe like This Is 40, or even in his comedies, he's always kind of putting like, more deep character stuff.
Yeah.
Or he's attempting to put more deep character stuff
Like
in
Funny
there.
People is anything but funny. You Adam Sandler thing. Like, I think funny people in this have a lot more in common than his earlier work.
Yeah, or even like his last movie, which I think was Trainwreck. I mean, that felt more like, an outright comedy than this movie actually felt. I actually really, really liked the supporting cast. I thought they were really, really good. I mean, Bill Burr and Marissa Tomei, I thought were really, really well, perfectly cast, and I thought they worked well in the story overall. I really enjoyed, call it nepotism or not, but I like Judd Apatow, who plays Pete Davidson's sister.
Oh, shit!
Who's going off to college. Yeah, I thought she was really, and I like the dynamics of their relationship, because I think it's kind of easy to kind of have her be the younger sister that just doesn't like her brother, or is just like really annoyed by her brother. But I think in the beginning of that film, you really see that, she's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, where, she's worried about her mom, and because knowing how her brother is, she has that scene, I think it's in her bedroom, where he's like, look, don't get on her nerves, but you can also see that she really cares and loves her brother as well. So I like how they give, they don't just make that kind of one-dimensional. And throughout the course of the movie, you actually see, like, when he goes to visit her at the college, they have a fun little night out, when they go drinking and smoking and having fun. So I kind of like that dynamic that, you know, she's annoyed. She doesn't like, you know, the fact that her brother's 24 years old and still living at home and causing all this kind of grief and pain for their mother. But she also does have kind of like this nurturing, loving relationship that she also has with Scott. And I like that dynamic between the two of them. I guess there's some other stuff. I even though it doesn't really fit as an outright comedy, I thought it has some extremely funny moments. I think the moment in the restaurant where they're fighting for tips, and I don't know who that actor is, the black dude. Oh my God, he was hilarious in that scene. That scene had me dying.
Scene though is so bizarre in the context of the the rest of the movie. what it makes you question yourself, like, is this how it's like being a busboy in Staten Island? Do you have to punch people in the face for your tips?
Man.
I only briefly was a waitress, and I did have to split tips, which was disappointing, but it mostly disappointed other people because I was the worst waitress.
It might be. Staten Island is a rough place, you know.
They really sell it as just a really different part of the country.
All their firefighters are on coke. That's what I've heard.
Oh wow! They say, like they said in the movie, people from New Jersey look down at people in Staten Island. So
it's so hilarious how long they tease Buscemi, where you're just seeing Buscemi in scenes, and it's like, why are they not? Is this where his career is now that he doesn't get to talk anymore? Is he 1995 Drew Barrymore? Is he just in a dress?
Damn.
But no, he gets to say stuff. He has very effective scenes.
Yeah.
And he's good in it. And Steve Buscemi's good in it.
Yeah.
He's always great.
Yeah, I like the stuff with the firefighters.
Did you though? Are you about to cry?
No,
it sounds like he almost drowned.
No, I was coughing. Sorry.
How productive was your cough? Was it a dry cough?
What's that?
I said, was it a dry cough? I'm just wondering how you're coping.
A little bit.
Was there any heat? You're good?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
All right. You have allergies?
No.
Okay. Take a Benadryl.
But I would say that's probably most of my good.
All right. Derek Gaines as Zoots is the gentleman's name who knocked the shit out of Pete Davidson for tips. So shout out to Derek Gaines.
Yeah,
he was hilarious. He was the funniest thing in the movie.
That one line is like, Jesus wants me to get these tips.
Tips. Wife dork.
Yes.
The good.
I really enjoyed Marissa Tomei as the mom. I give her permission to just play all moms from now on.
Yep.
I think she's a super effective parental figure. My mind was also blown by the performance of Bill Burr. Has he done other acting?
The Mandalorian, Lisa.
Oh shit. I mean, that doesn't count. He was so weird in The Mandalorian. You're like, what's Bill Burr doing here? I thought that it turns out he's an amazing actor, which, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of his stand-up. Like, I think that he's kind of a little bit, his opinions are a little bit not what I want to hear right now. But a great performance from him. I also liked Belle Powley as the girlfriend-ish character who was being led on by a douchebag, and who hasn't had that happen in their lives. It's a sad time. Brad is probably going to talk about this too. But at our first Sundance, we saw Pete Davidson play a similar role in a film called Big Time Adolescence.
Now available on Hulu.
Yes.
And I find Pete Davidson, like, he does do the, like, I'm a dirtbag, but don't you love me kind of thing. And particularly in Big Time Adolescence, I found him, like, super charming.
I think the comedy that Darren may have been looking for is in that film.
Big Time Adolescence is a comedy written and directed by Jason Orley, and it's about a Pete Davidson type who is 24, 22 years old.
Man-child douchebag.
But he has a tween-age kid in his neighborhood who is actually the brother of one of his ex-girlfriends, who super looks up to him and thinks everything he does is the absolute coolest. But now as this teenage friend is coming of age, Pete Davidson can see his character kind of changing in this child's mind, and it fucks with him, because he's like, now nobody thinks I'm cool anymore. And it's really effective and heartbreaking and really kind of sweet. And I saw glimpses of that, like, for some reason, Pete Davidson, the scenes where he was playing opposite the two kids, I just found those particular scenes so funny and so charming. I liked it when he went to the kindergarten classroom, and the kindergarten teacher was just like, this is the day they've been training me for. This guy is clearly some kind of creep. And she asks him to wash the paintbrushes, and then he just does. I just found that just so sweet.
And those sequences, if you like those scenes, go watch Big Time Adolescence, because it's all of that.
Streaming?
It's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu. It's a great movie. Big Time Adolescence is great, and that is my good.
Okay.
I thought there were great scenes in it. It's hard to tell when it is so fucking long.
All right, Brad, the good.
Yeah, I think my big good is the entire cast. I think everybody in the film is really, really good. I echo all the highlights, all the standouts. I would go a little bit further in my praise of Steve Buscemi, because he does show up. You're like, oh, Steve Buscemi. And when he does get to, like, do his scene, it's a great scene, and it makes me wish, like, we could get a Trees Lounge kind of film from Buscemi today. I would love somebody to make that movie again with Buscemi. And I think, like, Pete Davidson is incredibly watchable.
Compelling.
Yeah, and like, he plays man-child douchebag really, really well.
What's weird, though, is just, like, now would you buy, like, Pete Davidson, the doctor?
Well,
or Pete
that's on him, Lisa. That's on him.
If I was Pete Davidson and I do one role, and it's like, oh, you're the Arrested Development douchebag guy, I'd be like, oh, thanks
Lisa,
for the opportunity.
we're on Brad's good now.
But then they go like, oh, we've got another perfect role for you. It's an Arrested Development douchebag. And then the second time or third time they ask, my feelings would be hurt. Like, how come? He's just like, well, like, I've got tattoos. I could be a chef.
Yeah, but you do the douchebag so well.
He would obviously be a douchebag chef. Sorry, Brad. I'll give you. I will return the floor to you.
I mean, I guess that's really it. I guess that's it. That's my
cast.
Good. That's my good. Yeah, the cast as a whole.
All right. My good is Biagio. I will always call him Biagio because that's where I first saw him, and the character who had Moises Arias, the one who he would let him give him the tattoos all the time.
Oh yeah.
I like him in everything he's in, and I thought he's always funny to me. And just the reveal of his girlfriend, I knew at some point, right when they first had the discussion, when they said, "Oh, she's not real," I was like, "All right, well, it's clearly going to come back later in the film. Like, she's going to walk in somewhere, or he's going to arrive somewhere with her, and they're going to be like, oh shit, she's real." But I wasn't expecting it to be there where it is in the movie, and I thought that shit was funny. So I did enjoy that. And what else? Belle Powley, who plays the maybe not girlfriend or whatever, the friend-zoned girl. She was in White Boy Rick. I think she was Rick's sister in White Boy Rick. She was good in that movie too. Her performance was good in here. I just like her character. Like, it just frustrated me because she just, like you said, she deserved better. But anyway, her performance is great. The cast was great. Like you said, Brad. I echo the sentiments of Steve Buscemi. Marissa Tomei is amazing. I read an interview where she regrets sort of being Aunt May in in Spider-Man, and doing so well and being so well received in that, because she keeps getting offered these like mom roles or whatever, but she wants to do more. And so it made me laugh, Lisa, when you were like, yeah, she was amazing, do all the mom roles. Because
I don't mean to pigeonhole the queen.
Right, but you're not wrong. Like, she's great in that role, and especially how, even though she is his actual mom instead of his aunt, but she's still Aunt May. She plays like a sort of like a mother to Peter, but she still feels different from Aunt May. Like, the stuff that she says, you know, especially that one scene where she asserts herself and she's like, you know what, I've had it. I'm gonna make sure I'm happy. So you both gotta go, because I don't feel like dealing with either of you. Like, just how she played that scene in and of itself, I feel like, I don't know, like, I don't know. I feel like even though they're both mom roles, I feel like she did enough and she was well enough that she differentiated the two characters, Aunt May and this particular character. But what else? It was good.
I thought of another good. I liked the
good
payoff of when Bill Burr turned around and revealed the tattoos he had gotten.
Oh my God!
Because
yeah.
like, I was anticipating like, I was even saying aloud to Brad, I was like, these better be some shitty ass tattoos, because I've seen all of the tattoos like he'd given his friends and they're garbage, and it would be ridiculous if he has this amazing back piece. And so when he turns around and he's got all of the worst tattoos you've ever seen, I was tickled. I thought that was funny.
I immediately texted Brian. I was like, this motherfucker got old dirty bastard tattooed on his back. I told Brian, it's members of Wu-Tang who don't even have a tat of ODB on their body. Yeah, this dude does. That shit was funny. All right, Brian, the bad.
I guess the one that's kind of stands out is the running time. I mean, everybody kind of knows that Judd Apatow is known for kind of making overly long movies, and from what I hear, he even knows the criticisms that people have about him making movies that are just way too long. But he just feel, I guess,
so now he's doing the shit out of spite.
Well, maybe, I don't know, but I guess he just feels like he wants to tell a specific story, and if the studio or the producers are going to let him tell the story the way that he wants to tell it, then they're going to allow him to do that. Almost kind of the way they give carte blanche to Christopher Nolan with his movies. I mean, I don't know if that's the case, but I mean, him being aware of the criticisms about his run times and the fact that he still makes these movies, I don't know. It just, because to me, there seems like there's a lot in the movie that can be cut. That kind of segues into my other bad, which is the whole piece with him and his friends, like robbing that pharmacy. Like, you could have taken that whole subplot out. I don't think it would have really, at least for me, seeing it the one time, I don't think it would have changed.
Agreed.
Anything in that story, or at least the themes of that story, or or where the character of
and the
Scott,
tone of the film.
Tone.
Like, when that comes out, you're like, what? Where is this going? What kind of movie am I watching?
And the fact that it has literally zero consequences. Like,
I just so to me it just felt like he could have just really just got rid of that whole subplot, and that right there probably could have took out 10 to 15 minutes and gotten the movie to at least under 2 hours. But I don't know, man. That
was a really complicated payoff, a way to get to the payoff for Homeboy's girlfriend.
Yeah. Even if that was the whole reason for that sequence, was just for the reveal that he wasn't really being catfished. I'm like, okay, there could have been an easier way to get to that punchline. But yeah, I don't know. But that's probably like the two biggest things. And then also just Pete Davidson, like his character. Like, I talked a little bit about it before, where, you know, you look at these characters that Judd Apatow, he seems to really like exploring these characters that are in this state of Arrested Development, because you see that in some of his other films. But I think he does it to greater effect. But again, I don't know. It's just something about like Pete Davidson and I know that this is his story, like autobiographically, like he's telling the story of his own family. He even has some of his real family members in the story. But just the idea of like him trying to sabotage his mother's relationship with Bill Burr, who seemed like a nice guy and really, really liked his mother. I mean, I guess I get it. I mean, I probably wouldn't want my mother to really date either, but I'm not going to sit there and actively try to sabotage, especially like if she's happy with somebody. But so I don't know, that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But I think there maybe could have been another way that they could have went about showing the relationship, the blossoming relationship between Bill Burr's character and Pete Davidson's character, with him just maybe having issues, but just like when he's like when he goes to Bill Burr's ex-wife's house and like all that stuff, I don't know, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So,
are there fireworks going off?
Yeah, probably.
That sounds like that's right outside in my apartment. Actually, this started last night, which is crazy. It seems like fireworks have been going off for the last couple of weeks, but last night it felt like gunshots, like people shooting off shotguns. Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's
you want me to pause recording while you tell them to hold it down?
Yeah,
you want me to keep recording?
They're not going to stop because of me. But hey, look, we're leading up to 4th of July, so we're going to be hearing fireworks all week. So. Yep. But yeah, that's probably the most of my bad.
Wife dog.
I guess this isn't exactly a criticism. Like, I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but the movie just made me uncomfortable. Yep. I found it I found it so depressing and awkward to watch that I literally could not sit down. I cleaned the kitchen, and our kitchen is spotless, and you've seen my kitchen. It's never spotless.
Great.
So to me, I just like, and
I
Brad's
miss your kitchen, Lisa. I'm sorry.
I know, and I've got so many cold cashews right now.
One shaped like a dick, by the way.
I know, which I had him saved, and it's just in the back. I mean, it's...
I'm texting it to you right now.
Yeah, I want to hear your reaction.
Don't you touch it. It's mine.
It's wild. I was just like, who do I call? I'm like, oh my goodness. I need to take this on the road. This is my signature.
Don't touch it.
Yeah.
Boom. It is on the way. It's got a mushroom stamp and
everything.
I want it. Thank you.
But I just...
Holy shit!
I know, right?
Holy shit! I can't tweet. This is not safe for work.
I know.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you could see this right now.
I was going to tweet it out yesterday, and I was like, no, this is too much like a dick.
Like, what if, I don't know, a weird thing would have to happen, but what if I decided to be a congresswoman? Like, I can't have that.
Oh, my God. No,
but,
not on your
I guess
phone,
that's
because that looked like a dick pic.
That made me feel yucky, and I didn't like watching it.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, it's just, I think that there was like a charming, fun, maybe funny movie there, but like I just didn't have the patience for it.
Yeah. All right, Brad. In Goonies, remember in Goonies when in the beginning they were all goofing around in the living room and fucking Trunk knocked over that statue and it broke the penis off?
Yeah.
That statue. Yeah, that cashew looks exactly like that.
I know. What movie were we watching where it had David? Oh, it was in Batman Forever.
Yeah.
And they were he was like trying on the different Riddler costumes on the statue of David, and the statue of David had no dick. And it was weird. Like, who put the skivvies on David?
I don't know.
Like, I feel like his dick gets a pass, I would think.
David gets a dick pass.
It's grandfathered in. Yeah. Like, I think we all decided as a society we all get to see one dick, and it's David. So I thought that was weird.
All right.
Brad?
All right.
What's your bad?
All right. Yeah, what's your bad, Brad?
I think what Brian was talking about, like, I'm not a huge Judd Apatow fan, and that's because I feel like there is a lot of fat on the movies, and I think that tonally he loves going all over the place. And while some filmmakers can make that work for me, it doesn't work when he's dealing with it. I've been watching a lot of Curb Your Enthusiasm lately, and that's a whole series about an asshole making all the wrong choices and failing upwards in life. But it's delightful and hilarious, and I love it. Or like you look at the Coen Brothers movie A Serious Man, right? Where you're watching this guy just get punished over and over and over again, and like God is against him and everything that happens. It's like a miserable experience, but also like joyously miserable. Like there's so much fun to be had in A Serious Man because there's so much wit to that story. Whereas like 5 minutes into watching Pete Davidson's life, I'm like Lisa, I'm like clawing up the walls because it's so hard for me to watch. And so like that's not necessarily my negative. My negative is that tonally it doesn't work, and it drags. The movie just drags. Like I feel like the moment they introduce Bill Burr is going to be dating Marissa Tomei, you know exactly how this is going to play out, and it plays out that way. You know, and so. Like, I did not hate the movie. I gave it 3 stars. I think the movie is, like, I enjoyed it. Like,
You barely watched it.
I watched it over my laptop as I was working on other things because it was so uncomfortable.
Slid your ass all the way under the bus.
You know, but, like, you still got all the plot points. I still got all the plot points. Like, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
It's better than fine. It's good for what it is. Is it a great version of that? No. And it is impossible for me to watch and not compare to Big Time Adolescence, because Big Time Adolescence has all the themes and all the messages of this movie, plus it's funny.
It's funny, it's
and so
charming.
It's a totally different experience, and it's a much more enjoyable experience.
You actually like Pete Davidson.
Again, a movie doesn't have to be enjoyable to be good, but it does have to be interesting. And I think the ultimate flaw of King of Staten Island is it's basic.
Yeah. Okay. Also, it's not just shaped like a peanut. There's a sack too.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's the whole thing.
It's curved
There's a
around,
shaft,
and
there's a
then
mushroom
it's
stamp,
smooth
and there's a
on
pee
the
hole.
shaft side of the cashew. It's smooth, but when you get to the sack part, you even have like it looks like it's textured.
Dude,
there,
and
like,
there's a vein running
lumpiness.
down that thing.
When I looked at that, do you know what I saw? $. This is how.
This is
that,
like seeing Jesus in your grilled cheese.
Yeah. We're going to rent an RV. We're taking it on the road.
We did save it. It's in a baggie.
It's in a baggie. What are we going to do? Eat it?
Much,
no way.
I'm going to touch it.
Yeah, you're going to.
All right.
It's cold and hard.
All right. My bad of the film is just Pete Davidson. Outside of the runtime, it's just Pete Davidson. Like I just found that character insufferable. Like I just found it insufferable. So much so that when it wasn't focused on him, when there were scenes with everybody else, like I really enjoyed that movie. Like I really enjoyed the movie of the other people. But like his character, I couldn't connect with it. Like I couldn't relate to him. Like I just couldn't get on his level. I mean, he's clearly having some type of behavioral health issues. You know, his obvious cries for help. He makes, a suicide attempt in the opening of the film, and he's also having behavioral health issues in regards to, coping and living with and managing his ADD. And I wouldn't say he's bipolar, but he has anxiety. He has anxiety problems. He has problems with social issue, socializing and stuff like that. So he definitely has like behavioral health issues, and that stuff like I can understand, but like there's just some other things to that character, just things that he does, like just the way that he is with his mom and how he talks to her. Like I get it, like that happens, and it happens a lot, especially like in movies, but in real life people curse their parents out, I guess. But I can't relate to that shit. Like I can't, just because how my personal life experience and like how I was raised, like just the way he talks to his mom, just the way he feels, like his whole entitlement of just being that age and still being there and feeling like, and not understanding why that's not the right thing to do, why that's not the right thing to do, why it's not a responsible thing for him to be living there and not letting his mom be happy and see who the hell she wants to see, because she's a grown ass woman. Like I don't care how mad you are or whatever, like she's her own person. Like she's her own person. Like she's a grown woman. Even if she, outside of the fact that she's your mother, like she is her own self. Like she has full autonomy. She can do what the fuck she want to do. But then that's your mom, and then you talk to her that way. I just couldn't, like, and then what Brian was talking about, like going over to the ex-wife's house. It's like shit. Like I don't know. I just couldn't relate to any of that. Like I just couldn't. And I don't know. His character was grating to me. And I felt bad for the girl who, Belle Polly's character Kelsey. She was great in that role. Everybody was great as far as their performances. Even Pete Davidson, I'm guessing, because like he's being that way. If that's how that character is, like it's working. It's making me. He's not likable to me. Mm-hmm. And so, even his performance, I guess, was good because it just shit worked. But her performance, like I like that character, but like I don't know, like how she was written, like just I don't know. I just wanted her. I wanted better for her, and maybe that was the whole point of the movie. I don't know, but I just wanted better for her. Like I just found her dealing everybody how they dealt with Pete Davidson's character. I found it frustrating because I just wanted. He just needed more. Like he just needed more sternness. He just needed people to. He just needed his mom to be like, get the fuck out and go find your way in life. And don't talk to me like that. First of all, like you don't disrespect me. I don't know. I just couldn't. Again, my own personal life experience made me not be able to relate to that aspect of the film. But other aspects of the film, I was able to enjoy. Again, the other performances, Steve Buscemi. Again, my favorite scene is the scene that Brian talked about. That entire concept, yes, it is bizarre and left field, and tonally, like it's way off. But because I was having such a bad time with Pete Davidson's character, when that got introduced, it was so stupid and silly and fun that I was like, all right, I'm glad this shit is in the movie, because for the first time since that was like 36 minutes into the film, I was like, for the first time in 36 minutes, like I laughed. So like I can't complain about that scene being in the film, because that guy was funny as shit. Pete Davidson was good in the scene too, but the guy who knocks him out was funny as shit. So I mean, there's stuff I liked about the film, but when the star of the film is the focal point of the film, the main narrative of the film, and you don't like being with that character, it can kind of affected my overall feeling about the movie. Like I said, running time aside, that was really the only bad. And again, I mean that might, I guess that's even a testament to the film, is that that's the only bad. Is just that I just couldn't relate to Pete Davidson's experience, and therefore, like I just found his character insufferable. But like everything else, like with the film, if I could relate to him in some way, then I would probably be on the opposite, and I'd probably be like, this movie is freaking great. But because I just couldn't relate to the main character, I just couldn't engage in the way that I feel like I want to, or the movie deserves. But that's really my only bad about the film, and in the running time. I texted Brian, I accidentally hit the remote and it showed me the runtime on the film, and that shit said 46 minutes, and I was like, god damn, what else can happen to this dude? Like, what else is he gonna do? Like, this is a whole other act of a movie to happen. I was like, holy shit. And it felt like it was time for the movie to be over. Like, it felt
I think, and that's when they just introduced him going to the firehouse.
Yeah.
That's like the start of a whole nother movie. In every other movie,
right.
that would be like 40 minutes into the movie.
And that stuff, I will say, as far as another good, I liked. Like, once he got into the firehouse, how that affected him in his behavior, I appreciated, because at that point he was being less of an asshole and acting less entitled, and he was actually learning and opening himself up and expressing himself and allowing people to express themselves to him, and he was actually listening and growing from that. So that part of the film I liked, but like up until that point, like I just couldn't stand him. And even when that stuff started to happen, it still wasn't enough to make me go, okay, I'm just totally in love with this character. It was like, okay, it's nice that they introduced this element into the movie. It was more like it. And so that's it for my my bad. Brian, the ugly.
I guess, I have one more bad. The fact that there's nobody from Wu-Tang in this movie makes no sense. No sense.
Mad respect. He did have the Ghostface Killer T-shirt on, though.
Yeah, but
so
come
mad
on, man.
respect
Judd
for that.
Apatow put the RZA in funny place. He could have had one of them in this movie.
It's hard to get Wu-Tang anywhere, though.
What if
this
that
is
was
the
the
King
one
of Staten
thing?
Island.
What if that was the one thing on the cutting room floor? It's a member
Right?
of the Wu-Tang Clan.
We had to get it under 2 hours and 20 minutes. I had to cut Wu-Tang out. God damn it, Apatow. But Wu-Tang was well represented. You had the Ghostface T-shirt. You had the friggin' he had the yellow Wu-Tang T-shirt with the black symbol on it. Motherfucker had a tattoo of "Old Dirty Bastard" on his back. So that was a plot element. So
I know. I'm just saying, like, with something that has Staten Island and you don't have a member like in the movie when you had RZA and funny people. Come on, man.
Yeah. Well, you know that wherever they are, they bring the ruckus, and he's trying to get a movie made.
I guess my only ugly is Pete Davidson's skills as a tattoo artist. Them tattoos are fucking awful.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Brian, look now, that's not nice to knock another person's art, okay?
Yeah, I guess.
Be constructive.
The one that was looked like a scary baby. That is the shit of nightmares. That is
You said it looks
so
just
scary.
like my brother.
Oh, God.
And then Obama?
Yeah, the Obama one that the guy was supposed to be Obama.
That shit was like a Picasso.
That looked like a character from that cartoon, Doug.
Oh, God.
Oh, it was just bad.
Maybe that's what he was going for.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. Maybe bad tattoos are a thing. I don't want that on my body permanently. That shit better be pristine. Shit.
Well, that's what keeps me from getting tattoos. Is like everybody has a bad day at work. Like, what if you're the tattoo artist's bad day at work, and that's the rest of your life?
Oh my God, no! Please, no. I see. That's what's stopping me from getting my first. I've been debating, but I'm like,
Let me do it, Brian. Let me do it.
I'm good, man. I'm good.
I'm a good artist, you know.
No,
I draw.
know. But
right?
can you draw with a tattoo needle pen thingamajig, whatever that shit is?
I don't make mistakes. You've seen me draw with a pen and not make mistakes. I go fast
that's
with a pen.
But that's on a canvas of paper, not a canvas of skin.
Prison style.
Your
He's
body,
gonna do it with
your
a
body
shiv
will be my
and
canvas.
And a
Your
bic.
body will be my canvas of flesh.
Go treat me like Igor.
Let me do it, Reed.
Oh man.
A little small one. Let me do the little the Itmod logo. Let me do the Itmod.
Oh shit.
Everybody else got one.
We said what?
Yeah, we all got matching Itmod tattoos.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Let me think about that one. I might.
It's on the you got to get it on the inside of your thigh. That's where we have it.
That's right. No shorts for me.
I'm good then.
God damn it. All right, Lisa, the ugly.
It would be the V scene, but luckily I looked up the movie on Kids in Mind, so my eyes were closed, so I didn't see it. So it's not the V scene. The ugly, I guess, would be, I don't know. Just how it made me feel inside. Unsettled, all over the place, impatient. That's my ugly. Oh, also being woke up with like a fire hose. That's rude. That's an ugly thing to do to a young person who's just trying to find their way in life.
True that. All right, Brad, the ugly.
The ugly. I mean, I go back to what you were talking about, Darren, about him being insufferable. Like, you're 5 minutes into this film and you're just like, oh, I can't deal. I just cannot deal at all. I felt the same way. And I don't think I need to relate to every character or even find every character likable. But I need a reason to stick around. And I never found that reason to stick around. And why am I putting myself through this other than Pete Davidson's psychotherapy?
It got to the point, though. And I will say, I guess as a testament to the supporting characters of the film, they were so interesting, and they were interesting enough that they ended up being what kept me going through the movie to find out like what happens to the friend zone girl, and you know what is his mom gonna end up doing and deciding with Bill Burr's character, like and the sister, and I actually cared about what the story was gonna do for them, how the narrative was gonna play out for them. So it ultimately became that's the reason why I actually finished watching the film. It just so happened Pete Davidson happened to be in a lot of the scenes with him. So all right, my ugly is just his relationship with his mom.
Yeah.
Just his relationship with his mom, and the selfishness in it, and that, you lost your dad, but she lost a husband. She lost somebody too, right? And so not only did she lose her husband, she lost a partner that was supposed to help raise their child together. So she's at a loss, and she has to see his face every day and be reminded of him. She has to see her son's face every day and be reminded of the loss of her husband. And there's no consideration for what she's been feeling these last 17 years. It's just about him. He's just a selfish person, and I know that's supposed to be his character, because I guess that's how he was. But that's just ugly, and it's I take no enjoyment in seeing that. I don't know. I just didn't like that, and how he yelled at her, and how he tried to sabotage her relationship, and just his relationship with her in general. So that's my ugly. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, Mouth Dork is having a field day. He's sending me these different pictures with the cashew superimposed.
I feel
are you putting these on the freaking In My channel? Because if not, I'm gonna post these on my channel.
I feel like there should be a way that the listener gets rewarded for listening to this point of the episode. I feel like we need a hashtag, or they should DM us if they want to see the cashew.
I am not sending this cashew photo.
You fucked
obscene.
up by sending it to me, because now I'm about to save these photos. So go ahead, Lisa. That's a great plan. At the Disco Dork or whatever. Hashtag
show me the cashew.
Show me the nuts.
Show me your nuts.
No.
And I will show you this cashew. I will send you a picture of this cashew to disseminate as you will.
I have never felt so lucky as when I did not pop that thing into my mouth. If I took a good look at it before I popped it in my mouth, because it has brought Brad and endless joy and myself.
Are we sure that is not like a gag, like an actual sculpted penis that's been put in there? To see if someone. Oh man!
I don't know. I don't know if
because that looks exactly
organic branch of the giant brand of raw nut. If they're playing the long game.
Ah, damn.
There's a suburban woman somewhere who's really in for a treat. This cashew looks exactly like a penis. That's not a cashew. I mean, if it is, it's been someone took a little a thing that you carve soap with, and I'm telling you, that is Darren,
that's what it looks like.
I know this sounds but you have to touch it. You touch it and then you believe that. That's the
I know
real
it's a
deal.
cashew, but okay, if it's an actual cashew, I'm telling you, someone took a sculpting tool. That is what it looks like. That was meant to look like that.
No,
not
it's this
by
kind
nature,
of
but,
thing where it goes you know what? God does exist. He has a sense of humor. He's making cashews and making my day.
And farts exist. So I already knew he had a sense of humor, but I'm telling you, that's a dick.
It does. I don't know what to tell you. We should send a picture of it to Stitch Dork, and then she can make us all one of those hoops.
You know what? My birthday's coming up in August, Stitch Dork. I'm saying, I would love that. Anyway, that's it for our Good, the Bad, the Ugly of Judd. Our review cast was as long as were we doing that on purpose? Was that being meta? Were we trying?
Yeah,
to make
we're
this
trying
shit
to get our
as long
time
as the
back.
movie?
We're trying to get the time back from the movie.
Oh, okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen,
Brad, these are not nice. We gotta
I could
stop.
have okay, ladies and gentlemen, when you hear this episode, hit me up at the Disco Dork on all social medias, Twitter, Instagram, and or Facebook if you want to see this cashew. I have so many different variations of this cashew to show you. I'm telling you, it's gold. It'll be worth it. So thank you for listening to this episode. Like Lisa said, getting this far. All right, hit us up on social media and let us know what you thought of the film. Currently, you do have to rent it for $19.99, but I'm pretty sure in the next couple of weeks it'll be available on Amazon or Netflix or whatever. But in the meantime, check the movie out. Brian, what are you looking forward to this week?
It's hard to say, man. I don't know, man.
Yeah, you don't have no friends that you could get together with and do fun stuff with. That's fun to look forward to.
I mean, that's a staple, man. Wednesday, of course.
Is it?
Predator 2. Yeah, I'm ready. What's the line, Brad? What's the line?
Don't give it to him yet, Brad.
Don't
You can hear it on Wednesday.
Yeah, you can hear it on Wednesday.
Man, you gonna tease me like that? All right, but no, looking forward to that. And I've been curious about revisiting, and maybe since I'm saying on this podcast, hopefully, hold my feet to the fire, and I'll watch it this week. But Avatar: The Last Airbender is on Netflix. The animated show from Nickelodeon. People talk highly about that show, and I've never seen it.
One of my little piano students mentioned it to me today, and she is loving it. Joy Lee.
Yeah.
What? She's loving it.
Yeah, I wanna check that out because people rave about that show, and I know the movie was some shit, the M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Damn.
It was.
Damn.
I mean, I don't even think I've seen that movie from beginning to end all the way through, but what I've seen of it, it's just the acting alone, it's just bad. But yeah, I definitely been curious about checking that show out, and since it's on Netflix and it's available, and the crazy thing about it, that show has been in the top 10 of Netflix for like the last month since it debuted on Netflix. So that right there just shows how much people actually love that animated show. So yeah, I think I might check that out because I'm just curious. I'm curious, and I kind of want to see something great. I'm looking at this text.
Oh no!
But that's what I'm looking forward to, and probably more of these gifts or memes, whatever you call it.
Dick pics, Brian.
Keep them going.
Those are.
Keep them going, Brian. Keep them going.
Oh, this one's nice though.
It's a cashew.
You can follow that guy at at Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork 1 on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. Wife Dork.
Yes.
What are you looking forward to this week?
As soon as we stop recording, which may be in the next 45 to 90 minutes, we're gonna turn on the Golden State Killer series.
Oh yeah.
What is it called? It has the most generic name.
I'll be home in the dark, or
something like that.
Yeah.
I'll be gone in the dark.
I'll be gone in the dark.
That's it.
Based on the Meredith Salinger book.
Yep. So we're gonna watch that.
No,
is
HBO.
It just
it's on HBO.
No, I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. HBO. I'm still thinking Netflix. Yeah, HBO. Is it just the first? Like, how many episodes, or is it the whole thing?
No, it's just one episode. One episode. It's 6 parts.
6 parts. Okay. Cool.
And then
Meredith Salinger from Dream a Little Dream.
Maybe was she? I don't know what the deal is. I don't know everything about Meredith Salinger other than she wrote this book and she was once married to Patton Oswalt.
Well, she was married until she died.
Until she
they hit the finish line. Till death do they part.
Right.
Yeah, sorry, that got weird. And then also Hannibal Buress's new comedy special is dropping on YouTube.
When? What day?
July 3rd.
Yes.
So I'm excited for that.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I know.
4th of July weekend.
I know. Today's the 29th.
Okay. Yeah. Shit, my sister's birthday is on the 1st.
Oh, shit.
I gotta take care of that.
1st. Yeah, Wednesday.
Yes. All right.
You'll do nothing with your sister because you're hanging out with us. Tell her you have a date. Date with us.
I will do that.
I need to correct something real quick. Meredith Salinger is Patton's current wife.
Oh, you really fucked up.
Not the.
It is the girl from Dream a Little Dream.
It is the
with
girl
Corey Feldman.
and Natty Gann, but the woman who wrote "I'll Be Gone in the Dark" is Michelle McNamara. All this peanut cashew stuff has destroyed me for the night. I apologize.
It's okay.
But I'm working on another photo for you guys.
Oh, I'm really stoked. The last one, I don't know
Right.
if you can,
Thank
like the
you.
one where it's like got a beautiful halo in the sky and like a gorgeous angel's arms. That was my favorite so far. Of course, I'm a purist.
You can follow that purist at Sidewalk Siren and at Bake Dork on Twitter and Instagram. Brad Gullickson, what are you looking forward to this week?
I am looking forward to so many things. I'm also looking forward to the HBO documentary. Lisa and I are on the 8th season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, so I'm really looking forward to that. Wednesday night, Eyes the Demon. Can't see him when they come calling. It's Predator 2.
There it is.
Looking forward to watching Predator 2 with you guys.
There it is.
I like how he has the barbell, but the barbell is like underneath his dick. Like
the Schwarzenegger pick?
Yeah, like how does that even work? Like that's, I mean, something terrible is going to happen.
Yeah.
Well, that's why he's making that face, because,
oh, yeah.
you know.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can follow that guy at MouthDork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Tap. And I'm saying you really might want to follow him back if you want to see these pics. I am Darren Smith, the Disco Dork. I'm looking forward to Wednesday.
Yeah.
My sister's birthday and my dork get together with my friends. And I'm looking forward to continuing The Last of Us 2 and furthering the story of Ellie. And is there not a VOD this week, like on Friday?
Well, there is
new release?
one that came out this past weekend. I'm not suggesting any more movies, man.
What? Give it to us. Give it to us.
It's the Jon Stewart Irresistible that just came out.
I'm not. Is it $20?
I don't know. I haven't checked yet, but I think it is because it is like one of those like theater at home movies.
I'm gonna come over your house and watch it. $20.
I mean, if we decide to do that one, I mean, after next week, then we have a slew of movies coming out. On 4 movies, July 10th come out, so that'll set us straight for a while.
All right, you can follow me at the Disco Dork on all social medias. That is gonna do it for us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy the rest of your week, and until next time. Ma. Boo 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 whoop boo 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 whoop boo 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 whoop boo 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 whoop boo. That's it.